You guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this evening so we may get a much better understanding of the events of the past in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we may get a better understanding of what is soon to come on the earth. This was the main video I wanted to bring you guys today. And we're going to get into why things are happening the way that they are. What we have to I have to, for myself, strike a balance between looking at what the Most High is doing as far as prophecy is concerned, as well as still bringing out the historical accounts in order to get a much better understanding of why the Most High is moving the way that he is. Many people right now are beginning to come to grips with the fact that the lives that they've known are not going to continue for very much longer. Some might realize that there will be no going back to the way things were. Many are hoping that this will just be something that will just happen quickly and it'll just be like all the other, false alarms, and everything will return back to normal. These are not those times. The Most High talked about how he's going to have pity for his land. This is why it is so important to know where the land is and what land the Most High is going to be pitying. I see many Gentiles still trying to grasp, take our scriptures and try to make sense of them. But the more you listen to them, the more lost they sound. Like I said, but we know the Most High is going to be jealous for his land and pity his people. That's in Joel 2, chapter 18. It says, "Then will the Most High be jealous for his land and pity his people." Now, something huge the Most High showed me today, and then Sister Emma sent me a lot of books last week, but I wasn't well enough to get into those books, not until today. But I happened to just pick one of or two or three of the books, and one of the books fit absolutely perfectly with what the Most High showed me. So I know that he wanted me to bring these things together so that you guys can get an understanding about our lands here and how special they were, and again how these first-hand, primary sources are going to show you that they knew exactly which lands they found when they came to the fourth part. They didn't find some lands that they had no idea were here. They were lands that they knew were here, and they were occupied by the Most High's chosen people. And they're just going to keep telling on themselves in these other books that the Most High is leading us to. Right here. After the account of the great flood, the biblical Noah is said to have cultivated a vineyard, made wine, and became intoxicated. Thus, the discovery of fermentation is traditionally attributed to Noah, because this is the first time alcohol appears in the Bible. And I had to do a little bit of research again to kind of figure that out, because it said that Noah lived about 350 years after the flood. I want to say it's Genesis 9 and 20, where it talks about him making a vineyard. So this is all happening after the flood. It talks about the flood in Genesis 6 and 7. And not until Genesis 9 and around verse 20 does it talk about him actually making a vineyard. So wine is something that is attributed to Noah. Okay, very important. Just laying the groundwork here before we read some of the first-hand accounts. Okay, right here, Genesis 9 and 20, King James. "And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and read a couple other ones. Read a couple more down. Contemporary English version. Noah farmed the land and was the first to plant a vineyard. Okay, so now we know that Noah was the first to plant a vineyard. Okay, got that. Now we're going to get back into our book here. This is the cover of the book. The True History of the Conquest of Mexico. Captain Bernal Diaz del Castillo, one of the conquerors, written in the year of 1568. Right? So on this section here we're going to read, let me lay the groundwork. They had just defeated the Hebrews. They had just taken down Tenochtitlan. They were going to celebrate and have a party. Let's read here. Now we're going to read from the top. Okay? The Conquest of Mexico. After having returned thanks to God, Cortez determined to celebrate his success by a festival in Cuyoacan. A vessel had arrived at Villarrica with a cargo of wine and hogs, okay, had been provided from the island of Cuba. To this entertainment, he invited all the officers of his army and also the soldiers of Eftima Nation, and all things being prepared. On the day appointed, we waited on our general. When we came to sit down to dinner, there were not tables for one half of us. This brought on great confusion among the company, and indeed for many reasons. It would have been much better, okay, let alone. The plant of Noah was the cause of many fooleries, okay, and worse things. So right here, they're talking about the plant of Noah. Why would they be talking about the plant of Noah or any of these things coming from this new land over here? They found the plant of Noah, and at first I was kind of like, what's the plant of Noah? That's why I went and did a little bit of research, and one of my brothers actually that I was talking to actually kind of showed me about the plant of Noah actually being wine or alcohol, because you look at their actions. Okay, so check this out. The plant of Noah was the cause of many fooleries and worse things. It made some leap over the tables, who afterwards could not go out the doors. And many rolled down the steps. The private soldiers swore they would buy horses and golden harnesses. The crossbowmen would use none but golden arrows. All were to have their fortunes made. So these guys were drunk. And you know how it is when you're drunk, you're just sitting here just saying all these crazy things. Well, that's right here. And it's talking about how they got it from the plant of Noah. And the plant of Noah would be the vineyard. And then that would be the wine. And imagine how much more potent and pure the wine would be here in the lands of the Most High, untouched by the Gentiles. So it says, all were to have their fortunes. When the tables were taken away, the soldiers danced in their armor with the ladies, as many of them as there were. But the disproportion in number was very great. This scene was truly ridiculous. I will not mention the names. Suffice it to say, a fair field was open for satire. Okay, well, and then one of the priests gets all upset about it, but we're not even going to get into that right now. The main thing is that these guys had just defeated our people, and they were getting drunk, and they were referring to the drinks and the wine as come from the plant of Noah. And we just talked about how Noah was the one who set up the vineyards. He was the first one to be set up with the vineyards. So then it would make sense then that the land that they were in had a connection to the Holy Land, to the Most High's chosen people. And these people had just massacred the Northern Kingdom. You don't think these people already knew where they were at? Of course they did. Now, what I want to show you is how when you don't have firsthand accounts and you have secondhand, third-hand accounts, how the story changes really quickly. We're going to take a look from this book, The Conquest of Paradise, shared with me by Sister Emma, is the one who shared this with me. Okay, thank you. I'm going to read a little bit from the top right here. 1495 to 1500. Response to that was well expressed by the Spanish cleric who argued some years later, okay, that since these forsaken lands couldn't produce the wine necessary for the celebration of the Lord's sacrament, he obviously had it meant for their inhabitants to become Christians in the first place. So these guys were acting like these lands were horrible and that they could not produce wine, knowing that that's not true, knowing that they had wines and strong drinks already over here. Okay, but they try to make it seem as if they got all of our natives drunk and they were able to steal all the land by making them drunks. But we know in the Bible that our people were drinking, had drinks at weddings, right? Most Yahweh changed water into wine. So to make it seem as if there's no lands over here that could actually make vineyards is an absolute joke. Consider the fact that we have some of the largest vineyards over here. And the thing is that over there, they make their concoctions, but over here, we did the same thing, except we did it through the enlightenment of the Most High. So you already know that the things we're going to have over here, we're going to be much better. But the way that this cleric here kind of broke it down, when he says the Spanish cleric who argued some years later that since these forsaken lands couldn't produce the wine necessary for the celebration of the Lord's sacrament, he obviously had it meant their inhabitants to become Christian in the first place. Well, we already know that they had already had wine and that the soldiers were already enjoying it. So that's not true. But this is just a way for them to not want us to, try to make it sound like as if only their lands could produce the wines necessary for the sacraments. So therefore the people over here were damned. Well, yeah, our wine probably wasn't set up for your guys, for those sacraments over there, because that religion is BS. That religion is Caesare's religion. So of course, we're not, our stuff that we have over here isn't in tune with the things that they have over there, because the Most High had separated our lands and separated the way that you're actually supposed to treat the lands, the animals on certain parts of the world, all that stuff. Okay, so that's what I wanted to bring to you guys today. The main thing is this: as we're looking at the Most High accelerating, the restoration of His land and His people, more of these truths are going to be coming out. More information is going to be coming out, proving the fact that these lands over here are the lands that the Most High is going to restore, and He's going to protect His people at. But the vast majority of people are still stuck on Caesarea and thinking that He's going to save them, even though Caesarea has been giving them all the blessings for these last 500 plus years, has allowed them to live in peak, oblivion, and the world is still in oblivion. Even as things are falling down all around them, they're still talking about the so-called Middle East. If you haven't noticed, Israel has a bunch of people in quarantine. The Catholic Church, you haven't seen the Pope in days after he was hanging out with people who were supposedly cured of the coronavirus, even though now we know that no one gets cured. So that should make you wonder what's really going on. He hasn't been around to actually participate in any of his activities, anything that he was supposed to be participating in. And now, so that you got the Catholics, you got the same thing going on now with the they're having their issues with this virus, and the let's see here, and the Islamics I said, they're having their issues. They're not doing their pilgrimages. Now, if the Most High is dealing with any of these other religions, they shouldn't be having any of these issues. You got South Korea in their huge Christian population, and they're having to shut their things down. And what's funny to hear some of these churches over here saying, well, the Catholics are wrong and the Islamics are wrong and, all these other people are wrong. I said, don't worry. I said, don't be so quick to speak. I said, because the Most High is going to do the same thing to your churches over here as well. And these people are not going to be able to get up and get in their cars and go to the churches and hear your BS sermons and your lies anymore. And they're going to be searching for the truth. And we'll see if the truth will, if the Most High will hear them or not. I said, that's up to the Most High. That's above my pay grade. But many things are happening. I wanted to just share this information to you about the plan of Noah. And actually, that plan of Noah actually being used to make the soldiers drunk after they had already destroyed our lands. And how, the other nations are quick to, give their own opinions and hide a lot of this firsthand information. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.